All right. Well, welcome everyone. This is the second interview in Good Company Speaker Q&A series. My name is Leslie Fleming Mitchell. I am your host and facilitator, and it is my great excitement to introduce you to our guest tonight, Jennifer Carriere. I found out Jennifer speaks a little French too, so I was very excited. I said, "Oh, you mean your name is Jennifer Carriere, Jennifer Carriere." So
Rhymes with
Jennifer,
derriere.
what did you say, Jennifer?
Rhymes with derriere. I tell people, just think
Right. Just think derriere. That's sort of embarrassing, but it works. Let me just tell you a few little things about Jennifer, but she will do a much better job because she's been living her life. She has script supervised hundreds of episodes of network TV, dozens of films in the last 15 years. Out of sheer necessity, she created the most efficient, fail-proof script supervising system possible, which enables her to work far more shows per year than is usually possible or conceivable. Her outstanding script supervising also led her straight into high volume TV producing. She applies this efficiency and focus that she discovered in script supervising to illuminate the powerful and often misunderstood role of the script supervisor. What she learned in producing, I believe, Jennifer, you have also been able to apply to script supervising and vice versa. And she also mentors future script supervisors and helps them have their own impactful film careers. So I'm going to let her tell us more about her background, her path, and some of the significant moments along the way. How did you end up here now?
It was totally unplanned. So I had a background in civil engineering, actually, and I had gone to school and collected degrees and tried to go the safe and secure route, and take out enormous student loans and just go to school for something that was a safe bet. But I found out that that was not satisfying to me. It really didn't make me feel alive, and that I was just looking for something else. I didn't know what that was going to be. Quite by accident, I was invited to do an entry-level day job, like literally a day player, a bit of work on a TV show in New Orleans, and I caught the bug pretty much right then. And I was working at the New Orleans Corps of Engineers, and I had the ability to freeze my status as an engineer for up to 6 months of maternity. So I did that, and I went and worked on this TV show and decided that I was going to, in fact, walk away from my civil engineering career and go all in the film and TV industry with no education and no idea exactly where I would land in the industry. And right on time, the writer's strike of 2007 hit, and I had to go work on Bourbon Street in New Orleans as a bartender and just waited out until the film industry came back. So that was an interesting just little, but it was, it was an act of faith, to walk away from something that I had gone to school for 5 years for and try something completely different, but that made me feel truly alive. So I ended up going back to film and TV when the industry, when we started working again, when the writer's strike ended. I bounced around a number of different film departments until about 2 years into this exploration period, like working for entry-level pay in my late 20s at this point. I found out what the script supervisor role was. And when I found out truly what it was, I decided not to look back and go all in. So I do feel that the term script supervisor is actually misleading. My definition of a script supervisor is a mini director, mini producer, screenwriter representative, actor wingman, all rolled into one awesome, impactful film job. So script supervisor is just a super narrow, limited term. I truly have to think like the director. Okay, so the director is going to turn to me while we're shooting and ask me, have we got everything in this direction? Can I tear down all these lights and move all these cameras and never come back to this side of the set? Do we have everything we need? Oftentimes I'm dealing with directors who have so much on their brains, understandably, and I have to be the person who is, the calm one and the voice of reason. And I have to say, look, I know you're ready to move on, but we do not have X, Y, and Z. If you turn around or if we walk away from the scene without these shots, you won't have a complete scene. So let's go ahead and get them, or I might say something like, Leslie has added a bit of action to her performance that is not scripted, but she's done it absolutely every single angle of and every single take of every angle. And the camera has not seen it, but I've seen it with my naked eye. She's doing a little tick with her hand. Would you like to go ahead and punch in on that? I feel like it's a part of the storytelling. It's a part of her performance. Shall we grab a shot of that? Okay, so I'm actually a step ahead of the director in this sense. Now, naturally, they have so much else to be thinking about, but I have to be calm and make sure that they don't get into the editing room and find that they're missing shots, okay, because that would be on me. I am wearing a producer hat all day long. I am thinking like a producer. I am a mini producer, and that's why I became a producer completely by accident. I am constantly trying to solve problems, avoid problems before they happen. The way that I do this is by thinking everything through. From the minute I get the script, I read the script, I break it down, and I think about what problems could arise when we're shooting out of continuity. Let me talk with costumes about, whether this actor, there are so many different scenarios. I don't want to take up too much of your time going through examples, but
well, the examples are great. I mean, the examples are great because it's every department, it's everything. You basically have to play God.
Seriously, and then it's like we're kind of like in the Wizard of Oz, like we're back there behind the curtain, just like punching buttons and pulling strings, like making sure everything works without taking credit. But trust me, your director, your actors, your producer, your editor, they all know it's you. They all know that by delivering excellence as a script supervisor, you are making all the other departments look good. So I don't think it's a thankless job at all. I think they very much appreciate and thank me and reward me with, inviting me back for the next show and, driving my rates up and so forth. So I always feel deeply appreciated and very much in the inner circle on set as the script supervisor. So I'm constantly trying to think, when we're shooting out of continuity, if we are establishing Leslie with, what is scripted, a bohemian look or something, what kind of jewelry is that, is the costume department going to put on her? Are we going to put some kind of, heavy clunky necklaces and earrings, and then we're going to establish her that way. And then the sound department will say, her necklace is all over this microphone. We don't have a single clean take of her close up. And the director might say, well, just pull the necklace off. And it's like, no, we've already established her with the clunky necklace. Now we have to live with it. So I'm always trying to think like a producer, what can go wrong when we're shooting out of continuity? So that's just one example of something that I would try to get ahead of during prep and make sure with my costumes department, do we have something that is sound friendly for Leslie's bohemian look? For the props department, if we have a scene where an actor is going to, spill hot coffee down the front of their shirt or something like that, like what's the liquid that's going in the cup? Is it going to be something cold? Is it going to be water with food coloring? Let's not have coffee from craft services, brought to set on the day by the props assistant and have the actor, do a rehearsal and scald herself with coffee. I'm constantly thinking about how to avoid problems on set. So that's where I wear my producer hat.
Jennifer, when do you get to tell people this? When do you get to say, hold on to the director, or wait a minute, did you see this? Because I saw it. Because do you see things in the moment and you go, wait, stop, or how much do you work with the director and say, did you think about this? Well, how is that going to work? Right.
So great question. And that happens both during prep and while we're shooting. So prep, the script supervisor does not get to come in and prep as early as, say, the assistant director or, the costumer or the props master or something like that. So I have a limited amount of time and I have to make great use of that time thinking, first of all, getting caught up to where they are, and then thinking about how to avoid problems like that. So I will once I get my script when I'm hired, I read it a couple of times. So I'm very, very familiar with it. And it's just like in my gut, like I have a sense of the story, and then I start breaking it down. And when I'm breaking it down, I'm populating my breakdown with questions and issues to raise in prep. I can find out a huge amount of information from the assistant director who has had the benefit of weeks or months, even, depending on the format of the show, with the director. And I can say, like, what's the plan? I see there are supposed to be background actors who are in every single scene with Leslie, do we have these background actors committed for the whole 13 months, are we going to be establishing a certain group of background actors and then they all disappear and we have, random new background actors, what's the plan? Have we gotten people who are committed? I'm just like kind of spitballing this, so we have a scene where there's supposed to be a couple in a car and they're driving, to a drive-in movie, and the script says that they are cuddling in the car, but is the car a car that is designed, for them to be able to be next to each other? Or is it some enormous truck where they're going to be 5 feet apart in the cab? I'm just always trying to think about how things will look on camera. So what we see, in the script in prep, I'm trying to get the details, like what are we planning for the production to make sure that everything that is in the script will play and work on screen.
So Jennifer, when do you get the shot list or a shooting script? When do you get that?
So in prep, I'm lucky if I get a shot list. It's a wonderful privilege to get a shot list from the director or DP. It's kind of rare these days. Production schedules are tight. Sometimes you get one, sometimes you don't. I have to be able to thrive and get all the shots regardless of whether I get a shot list. So I train people to do this, and I tell my people, practice shot listing. Never ever give a shot list to anyone on set. That is not your lane. That is not your risk. You're not supposed to do that. It's for you. Practice shot listing. Read scenes and think about what shots are required to tell an interesting scene. So I need to be able to see a rehearsal and see where the master camera angle is going to be, and then know all the shots that are needed. I just need to see it. It needs to become second nature. It needs to be drilled into me how to just see the angles and understand the eye lines, so that I have, when we're like in the thick of it and the chaos, and I have, 4 camera operators and we're jumping back and forth between 2 different masters from 2 sides of the room. They're telling me, Jennifer, the DP said set up a shot on Leslie, but where's she supposed to be looking? Camera right or camera left? I need to know. Okay, regardless of where, I need to know what we're cutting with. So I have to tell you, we as a script supervisor, we need to be ahead of everyone. The process that I use, the process that I develop, the process that I train people in, it's a no-brainer. I really, really focus on understanding angles and understanding story and understanding how to think like a producer so that you can thrive as a script supervisor. And the benefits are outstanding because, it's insider access from your first day. It's like you're in the private director's rehearsal first thing of the day. When we wrap one scene, you're in the private rehearsal for the next scene. We're figuring out together how to tell the story. The director's turning to me, asking for creative input, story context, and so on. I then work with the actors throughout shooting the scene. Helping them either rehearse or helping them match their performances from the director's favorite master camera takes so that their coverage is usable in the cut. If an actor delivers a gorgeous performance of like a 2-page monologue, but they just decide to improvise and stand up during the monologue and they were never standing in the master, I guarantee you that gorgeous monologue, their best performance, is going in the bin. It's going in the trash bin. It will never see the light of day. So I have to, without breaking the actor's concentration, support them in matching their performances so they're usable in the edit. It's very important to establish warm, trusting relationships with your actors. So actors have become my best friends. I mean, one of my girlfriends in Atlanta, she's the star of a TV show at a studio here. she might actually marry my fiance and me, like literally, like it's like, that's just something that would be kind of fun. And she kind of like figured into like how we got together. And as a script supervisor, that just becomes kind of your clique, the actors, the director, producers, and then sometimes a screenwriter, like if you're on a pilot and they're hanging out on set, oftentimes the screenwriter's not on set, they're off, in another city writing the next episode or the next feature or whatever. So yeah, it's a great thing for, instant inner circle access with the key players, and it's surprisingly creative and influential to the storytelling. It's not a technical job. There is some technical work required, but that's just paperwork that's really become second nature. The paperwork piece is all about giving the editor the roadmap for cutting the film or TV show to the director's liking. So the director will tell me, or I'll just figure out, because I'm a foot away from the director, like understanding what they like and what they don't like. I take those notes, whether they tell me directly or I just figure them out, and I tell the editor how to cut the piece. The greatest compliment a script supervisor can receive from an editor is, I showed the director the rough cut. They said, don't change a thing, just tighten it up. It's perfect. I've done my job, because the editor wasn't on set. I was on set telling the editor how to cut the show. Okay. Mm-hmm. So it's truly like there's so much responsibility and so much reward for it. So I really, really love it.
Wow. So editors, I know that I've noticed that there's more editors around. It used to be when you did a film, editor was later, it was somewhere else, and now there's like editors on the set. What's going on with that? They're there actually editing sometimes while the episode is being shot. What's that about?
It's because of the speed that we're shooting, in the fast and furious digital shooting climate. Production schedules, they have to deliver. So they literally have to be cutting, every single day. So if editors are on set, it's truly to keep up with the speed of the shoot, because they have to deliver a final, a complete episode, a complete cut in 6 weeks or something, and that's really hard to do. So I would say it's for that reason. But if you're just working with assistant editors, it's not like they can really give me creative input. It's really my responsibility. The burden is on me to find out and communicate to the editor, not the assistants, but the actual editor, what the director's vision is for the cut.
Right. Jennifer, I have this, this is very spontaneous, but I wonder if the viewers would like to, I don't know if it's possible, but for example, I have a short scene, a very short scene, one location. I actually transcribed it last night. It's from Mrs. Maisel.
Okay.
And it's two characters. I should have played the woman in the restaurant. That's all I can say. So I transcribed it because I have a professional actors group and we work on scenes a couple of times a week. If I were to give you that short scene, right, would you, I think it would be really interesting to hear how you would explain the coverage that was necessary.
Oh, sure. I was going to say, do you want me to break it down like in a continuity breakdown? But let's talk about coverage. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, I'm not sure if I can send it to you. I'm not sure how.
You just screen share. If it's in a PDF, you can drop it into the chat. But if you just screen share, we can read it together that way.
Yeah, let me screen share it.
Okay.
Everybody, are you interested in this? It's not going to take the whole evening, but raise your hand if you'd be interested. Okay. All right, good. Because I think it's, there's nothing like, what is that expression? The proof is in the pudding. That's not exactly the right thing, but.
Prove it.
But okay, let me find it and then I will share it with everyone. Okay, here it is. Now, of course, this is me. So this is not the probably, what their script looked like, but this is my script. So here we go. All right. Yes. Okay. Can you all see that?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay. So everything.
So they're,
business lunch. Okay.
Abe, who is Midge's dad and a journalist and very neurotic, gets invited to a business lunch with a wealthy donor, society woman, Penelope. They're having a business lunch in a fine French restaurant, right? As soon as the scene opens, Penelope is already mid-sentence. She's already, going on and on about herself. And Abe is listening. And then there is a moment where she puts her hand on his knee and he freaks out and gets very nervous. So it's even if we started with just the beginning, I'd love to see how you would break this down.
Sure. I mean, already I can see that we're just right now, it's just dialogue where they're sitting opposite each other. So I already am good up to this point. Let's see what happens next.
Okay, a waiter does come in.
Okay.
Waiter approaches the table.
Cool.
Our île flottante, and it's on the house. And he delivers it.
Bring a dessert, I'm wondering, or is that what is île flottante?
Île flottante, it's a dessert.
Yummy. Okay.
And it's, it's a fancy French restaurant. So, and the waiter is French. So there are airs, shall we say.
Okay.
Right.
It's very, very simple coverage up to this point. Let's see what happens.
Okay. The waiter places the check on the table. Abe grabs it. And then he says, this is on the Voice, because he works for the Village Voice. Okay. So kind. I should bring my wife here. She'd love it. She's such a Francophile. Penelope says, oh, my husband is French. They should meet. Now, I'm sorry, I have to dash. She gets up. And Penelope laughs at what Abe says. And then she says, if I had known I was dining with such a charming man. She sits in the chair next to him, leans in. I'd have scheduled time to linger. Next time I won't make that mistake. She places her hand on Abe's thigh and keeps it there for the rest of the scene. So she's changed from one seat. When you open,
on the other side,
they're sitting, opposite each other. And then she moves to this chair and he's still there.
Yeah.
So she goes from the 3 o'clock position to the 6, and he's always at the 9 position.
Okay, gotcha.
The waiter comes in at the 12 o'clock position.
Yeah. This is very, very simple coverage. So first off, we obviously need a wide master that shows us where we are and all of the action throughout the scene. So all the entrances and exits and action and moving from 3 to 6, next to the 9 and the waiter coming into the 12 and so forth. So we need a wide master, easy peasy. We need coverage. Okay. So over Penelope to Abe, over Abe to Penelope, and probably close-ups, so tighter and clean in both directions, the 3 and the 6. We also need coverage of the waiter from both of their perspectives. So over Penelope to the waiter, over Abe to the waiter, and then over the waiter back to both of them. We probably want, if it's gorgeous French food, we want to feature, the beautiful plates being set down. So we'll get inserts on each dish as they are placed on the table, I'm assuming. And then once we get into the section where Penelope has moved, then we have coverage all over again from the 9 to the 6 and the 6 to the 9. And then obviously a sexy, shot of her hand underneath the table, grabbing his leg and his reaction to that. Maybe we'll punch in even tighter to really tell his reaction when that uncomfortable act takes place. And then I think that's pretty much it, unless there's someone else like observing them in the scene, like watching from afar, like, maybe some kind of like voyeuristic, like POV of this activity taking place. But I really think it's just wides coverage from all 4 positions on, over them to the waiters, over them to each other. And then in the new positions, inserts of the food and an insert under the table of the leg rope.
How many setups would that be?
So we've got a master, we've got, so Abe, Penelope, and then probably tighter in each direction. So we'll add, another, so we'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then to the waiter, 6, and then over the waiter to each of them, 7, 8, and then she moves again. So we'll go 8, 9. Inserts, we'll just call all the inserts 1. They can just pick them up in one go. So 10, and then an insert under the table of her grabbing the knee. I mean, I'm going to guess around 11, just rough angles. But But, with 3 cameras working, that would not be hard to achieve. That could actually, I mean, that's how you would normally do it with TV. You don't have a huge amount of time. So you'll have maybe 3, maybe even 4 working cameras. So yeah, in the neighborhood of 11, 12, something like that, just off the top of my head.
Wow. And how do, I mean, this is probably a very simplistic or simpleton question. I'm not sure which. How do the cameras avoid,
Each
uh,
other.
yeah,
By being really clever about, just edging out of each other's frames and adding a longer lens. So, we might have an A camera that's only, 6 feet away from Abe. And it's a medium, it's like a chesty, like medium close up to the top of his head. But then in order to get that same shot without being in the A camera shot, the B camera might have to put on a slightly longer lens and be a little further away from her in order to get the, the 2 T's to the head. So, it's just with lenses. Ideally we have similar lenses for coverage because we don't want one to feel like wide and one to feel long lensy because they just feel different. But if we have to cheat a little bit and put a slightly longer lens on one of the cameras, so it's physically out of the other camera shot, but still achieving a similar size, then we could do that.
wow.
Yeah,
Now, here's a question. In this particular scene, there are people dining at other tables and there's a waiter and then there's a bartender in the background, right? How do you get them to follow the rules of continuity? That sounds like a nightmare.
By drilling it into their brains that they have to match. So thankfully, when it comes to the background actors matching their performances, we have a wonderful ally in the assistant director. Usually the second AD manages continuity for the background actors. And when we have big background actor scenes, that second becomes one of my close friends on set. It's like, and then I tell you all the time, I walk up to those background actors and, of course, we're very nice and grateful to have them there because they're part of the scene. And I just tell them directly, like they see that I'm the script supervisor. They see that I'm like a mini producer type. And I'll just say, look, I noticed in the last take, you crossed over to the edge of the bar, which you've never done before. Like, do you mind terribly? Just sit tight where you are because we do need to match to the master or something like that. I mean, we just handle it but I'm watching them and the second is watching them as well. Oftentimes, like when we have these like scenes on like a sidewalk or something like in a busy city, the second they're cueing the background actors to cross and they're just taking their best guess, so if we have established that we have 2 principals talking and the background actors are crossing at certain times, which I track, and then in the coverage they're crossing at different times because they're confused or the second got a note over their radio and they forgot to cue one of them, it's like then I have to intervene and be like, we really have to match the background actors to the master. So this person crosses at this point and this person crosses at this point. And, so we're a team when it comes to matching the background actors. And so we focus on what's in the shot and what matters most,
Do you stay very close to the director?
I'm a foot away from the director.
That's what I figured. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes. I need to be a step ahead of the director. So even if I'm on a set where the director is totally overwhelmed and forgetting to give me notes, because you get that sometimes where they're just like a deer in headlights and they're just scared because there's so much pressure, I still know exactly what to tell the editor in terms of the director's preferred cut because I'm a foot away from them and I am focused on their reactions, so I can see them swearing under their breath, oh, this background actor keeps looking in the lens, they call the AD over. Don't let that background actor look in the lens again. Please, I need a take. They're right in my actor's shot. Like, just please have them look away, or something like that. It's like, okay, all of, takes 1 through 3, NG, background actor staring at the lens, distracting from the performance. Or, I can hear them call an actor over and say, Leslie, I like the way you did it in take 1. Like you kind of, I'm seeing a little anger creep out. Like, let's go back to the performance from take 1. I think that's the way to go. It's like I'm telling the editor, okay, so takes 2, 3, 4, not the director's preferred takes, it takes 1 and 5. I'm just right next to him. I can find out whatever I want. I can get the information out of them if they don't volunteer it, or I'm hearing it regardless because I'm right next to them. So, wow. Yeah.
Well, I have one more question, then I'm very eager to open it up because I want everyone here, you're all at different levels of awareness of how film production happens. So what I would say is feel free to ask any question, even if it seems very basic. Please don't feel like you have to be some sort of a, seasoned director to ask Jennifer questions. That's not the idea. She has kindly given us her time to answer any question. But there's one thing that I want to ask before we open up the Q&A, and that is, how good are actors on continuity? Like I get, like sort of, what's the word? Just hyper vigilant, because I want everything to match,
Yeah.
right? But I know there's some, who was it? A good friend of mine that Judy, who was
Townsend?
yeah,
Yeah.
the script supervisor. She told me that I can never remember her name, but she's the one that did all the Twilight series. Stewart.
Kristen Stewart.
Yeah. And so
I worked with her. I worked with Kristen. Yeah.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so Judy was like, I'd go up to her and say, you got to do this. And she'd say, it's too early for script supervision, right? So what's your experience? Like the actors whose greatest performances and takes end up in the final cut?
Yeah. Well, they have to match, right?
Right. So how much do you tell them and how much do they do it on their own?
So the more seasoned the actor, the more they know how important continuity is, because they, above all, do not want mismatches distracting from their gorgeous performances. So like, I'm just going to throw out a name, and this is an old school actor, Don Johnson. Okay. Absolute maniac about continuity. Okay. I mean, just because he knows he was, he did Miami Vice for years, and he's, this enormous career. But you don't have to be that old of an actor, that, that established of an actor, to know that continuity matters. TV actors really, really get it. And also they get a lot of pressure from the director and producers to match. Once they start looking at dailies and they see that they're, experimenting and stuff, they find out really quickly. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if their agents and, if their business agents and stuff get a call about it, because it really, really matters. It's very, very costly to keep doing takes and then not have takes be usable in the edit. So I would say, gosh, 99% of the actors I've worked with are my greatest allies when it comes to continuity. They will oftentimes catch things that costumes, hair, makeup, props, those people didn't catch. So like, we won't even, we'll be about to shoot a scene, about to rehearse a scene, and they'll come to set camera ready. But we're matching something from, say, 3 weeks ago, and I haven't even looked at them yet because they're just stepping onto set, and they'll walk straight up to me and go, Jennifer, costume said that I'm matching, but I promise you I'm not. This tie was different. This tie was different, and I'm like, okay, well, let me look, and then I check and it's like, you're right, they're wrong. Let me walk over and correct this right now. Or, they'll say, my sleeves were rolled up to the elbow. They're insisting that they should be at my wrist, and I'll double check my notes, and my matching is like, you're right. This happens all the time, and it's not, I'm not trying to, say anything negative about costumers, but they do have a ton of people they're looking after. They have people who are on set, and then people who are prepping to get ready for the next scenes. And, they're pulled in a million different directions. So in the chaos, things slip by them, but the actors are hyper focused on not letting mismatches distract from their important performances. So I would say they're my greatest allies when it comes to continuity. And also matching performance. The seasoned ones don't want their performances in the trash can. They want them to match. They'll be like, I'm just making sure that I turned over my right shoulder, right? Like, I mean, I was kind of like in the zone. I don't remember. Did I turn over my right shoulder? Yes, you matched it perfectly, Don, or whoever you are.
Right.
Yeah. The actors
I've seen an actor, named or unnamed, that is just like, whatever, you figure it out.
I will no, William Hurt was one of the only actors, and he's a brilliant actor, but he would experiment and kind of not give a damn. And he was really kind of bossing our Academy Award winning director around on this mini series that we were working on. But he's also famously difficult. I'm not trying to he's a brilliant actor, so I probably shouldn't be naming names, but he and then John Cusack was also very much like, I don't care about continuity. If I walk on a set in a purple shirt, then the costumer can say something, but if not, just leave me alone. You know? And it's like, that's like an example of an actor who is a little difficult. And, you know, I have a responsibility to tell not only the director, but the producer, you know, and it's like, and then it's their call, you know, like, are we going to get involved and correct this? Or are we going to let this actor who, you know, is quite a bit more experienced than our director run things, you know? And also he would show up to set 5 hours late and leave before we were done shooting and all kinds of other things. So, you know, it's rare, but sometimes you get an actor with an ego who doesn't care. And then, you know, what ends up in the cut is, you know, kind of embarrassing, but all we can do is do our job and, you know, insist or ask them respectfully to please match. And if they refuse, then it's a question of, you know, we either have to fire them and replace them and reshoot everything or live with it, you know. So that's kind of the risk of working with difficult actors. But that's rare. Most actors are the hardest working people on set. So
oh,
yeah.
I agree. Actors are my people.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's open it up. Donna, you had a question. Do you want to start?
Yes, I do. Thank you so much. I'm loving this so very much. And this is probably, I'm going to say, Leslie's like, ask your stupid questions. This is kind of a stupid question. What exactly, because I am very interested. I'm excited to get your book. So I'm very excited about that. What exactly is the master shot or a master shot?
Okay, yeah, the master is just the big wide shot that establishes where we are and all the movement. Okay, so, you know, if we're shooting a shot in a church, you know, we'll have this big wide shot that shows the whole church. We'll run the whole scene soup to nuts. And so we have all the action we're establishing when everyone enters, when everyone exits, when the, you know, the crowd, you know, stands and sits, and, you know, it's just establishing everything. Now we'll have already worked that out in private director's rehearsal. So in private director's rehearsal, it's director, actors, script supervisor, DP, right? The cinematographer and the AD to kind of just keep us on time. And then the director, DP, actors, and me will work through the scene, and they'll decide on a final blocking. Then we go into marking rehearsal and show the whole crew. Okay, so this is everyone's opportunity to see what we need to prepare for, you know, so the gaffer's thinking about lights and costumers are thinking about, okay, so they're going to take off their jacket. So let me make sure I track that and all the things that are going to happen in the scene that we have to track. So we already know what's going to happen before we ever roll a single frame. Then the actors will step away and finish getting camera ready. And then they'll come back in and we'll shoot our first wide master. So again, the wide master, big wide take that establishes everything, including the movement. And then I will work with the director and find out which master takes they want to match to. Once I know that information, I swoop in and help support the actors in matching their performances to the director's preferred takes. If they tried it where, you know, an actor did one speech, you know, did a certain speech standing up, and they also did an alt where the actor did that speech sitting down, I need to know what we're matching to. There are times when the director says, I really, and this is kind of like, directors should be decisive because there's really not a lot of time, you know, time is very precious on set, but they might be like, I really want to have the option of using both. So we're going to shoot every single angle with a version of each. So a version of the speech standing and sitting. You can imagine how much that would make a producer sweat bullets, you know, like, oh my gosh, we're doing extra coverage, you know, for this important speech, because the director can't make a decision while we're shooting, adds extra time, but, you know, it's whatever, you know, it's the director's vision, you know, so I'm there to support the director and then to, you know, support the actors in matching to the director's preferred takes, because God forbid they do something, you know, they do a gorgeous performance that's not usable because they weren't matching.
Wow. Shannon, you have a question, and then Lisa.
Yes. Hi, Leslie. Thank you for doing this for us. And thank you, Jennifer, for being here. I'm an actress, filmmaker, director, writer, local 480, work on crew. Like, I love being on set, and I've fallen in love with the script supervisor position and kind of want to jump into that a little bit. And one of my questions for you was, for someone who's just starting out and for their first ever production, whether it's a TV show or feature or a commercial or a short or whatever, do you have, well, first, what is in your daily kit, I guess you could say? Like, do you have like a computer and then an app you use? Do you have like a specific like cheat sheet for every shot, like where you need to put, time code and camera angle and all that. Like, do you have a personal one that you've created, or do you have one you recommend?
Yeah,
That's a great question.
I train, yeah, it is a very good question. I train script supervisors all the time. Okay, so I have a group that's training right now. I have like plug and play templates, so I developed a system. I had to develop this because I work at a really, really fast-paced studio where we're shooting an unbelievable number of pages and episodes per day. So I need something that is absolutely fail-proof. So when people train with me, I share with them my system for unfailing continuity, no matter how much pressure and how chaotic we get on set. So I have certain forms and templates that I use. I still to this day, 15 years into my career, do certain shows old school handwritten. Okay. And the reason for that is on multi-camera sitcoms, handwritten is actually better. It's almost kind of impossible with a digital program. I also train my students in both Scripty and Scriptation. Scripty is excellent. I mean, it's just an outstanding program, but you can't annotate pages like you can in Scriptation. So I like to present both of those programs as options for just starting out. But really, in the very beginning, it is like a piece of tech is not script supervising. And script supervising, there's a lot to learn very, very quickly, so you can learn all the steps. And then when you get on set, it's like, okay, I'm in the hot seat. Like, dear God, there are like 50 things happening right now. What's my priority now? What can I, set aside? Like I'll slate in a minute, let me match that actor's collar first. And then let me correct that line over there. And then let me get the set dresser to go fix the curtains that the grip just messed up, and then put the table back that the camera operator moved because we'll be missing it in the shot if I don't. Okay, next I'll give the slate. It's like, there's like so many things to think about. Throw in complicated tech in the beginning and you will be screwed. So I caution people, like, please just do a couple of gigs, old school handwritten. And then when you're totally comfortable, start considering tech. You can look at the couple of programs out there and, just do a test. They usually trial period of time to learn it and see if it's for you, and consider. I really do like Scripty and Scriptation for different reasons. They're both excellent. Scripty is really awesome. That's my favorite, but Scriptation's great because I can draw all my notes right. And, line my, just draw everything, all my annotations and sketches of the, blocking and whatnot right on the PDF, as opposed to Scripty, where I have to have a set of sides with all my blocking sketches and my computer or iPad together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Great. Shannon, you can put your hand, your virtual hand down.
Yes.
Now, if you want.
I am going to drop in this chat here, I'm doing a live full on overview Saturday, just a free deep dive. So I just dropped that in.
Nice.
If anyone, it's this Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern. So I guess that would be 11 a.m.
11 a.m. in Mountain.
So anyway, just if you want to learn more, I already had this scheduled prior to this.
That is fantastic. Fantastic. Great. Okay, Lisa and then Pam.
Hi, Jennifer and Leslie. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. So Jennifer, I have a question for you from like an acting perspective. And I think you can answer it because you've worked so closely with actors. So I was just booked on, my first little recurring thing on Roswell as a singer. So it was pretty fun, like how you said, like a basic scene, maybe it has like 11 setups, and I'd never been through this before. But luckily for me, it was like pretty easy because it's like, okay, all I had to do is lip sync. So, I'm the singer, I'm like, standing next to the actors, lip singing a song, and I just do that, 11 times or whatever for every setup. I'm just wondering what you've seen actors do if it's like a more demanding scene. Like, what if they have to cry? What if they have to scream? Like, I've done Leslie's classes, for example. I can do a scene once with Leslie. How do I do that 11 times and keep my energy up?
I'll tell you. Save the performance for the close-up. 70% in the wide. The wide is just, we're just cutting to the wide for movement, So and then, you don't need to give your best tears on Don's close-up or Angela's close-up, or, when you're in the background and we're on the waiter and we just vaguely see you. Save the performance for the close-up. Sissy Spacek does this. And sometimes we start, if it's an emotional scene for an actor, sometimes we start with the close-ups to get it out of the way as a respect thing to the actors. So
Oh
they
my
don't
gosh,
have
that's
to sit there.
awesome. So that's
Yeah.
like actually a conversation that I could have with the script supervisor. Like, hey, like the crying scene is pretty exhausting. Can you just tell me where in the, in the
Yes.
coverage
Oh
it's
my
gonna
gosh, yes.
happen?
You can go right to the script supervisor and say, when are we getting to my close-up? Because I need to hold it in, and I would probably have a
Amazing.
conversation with the director and say, look, Lisa has a really tough scene. She just brought this up to me. Would it be useful to grab her close-up while she's in the zone? Because we do that for actors. And it's everybody wins, because like the director wants your gorgeous performance. They don't want you tired and out of steam when it's time to come to you. So a director who's been around the block is going to strongly consider, for their actors' sake and for their own sake, getting that performance when it's good and when they're like, dialed in.
Mm.
Oh my gosh, thank you. That was so helpful. I really appreciate it.
Great question.
Yeah. Pam, I want you to go. I want to ask one quick question, which is, I worked on Curb Your Enthusiasm, and that's all, the entire thing is improv. I can remember in my, not understanding that, asking, when I booked it, and I can't remember who called me, but I'm like, when do I get the script? There's no script.
They're like,
Oh,
we're just going to give you a suggestion for the scene and then do
right.
something.
Not even that. No, they just, fortunately, I've been doing improv for years. So I was like, good, no script. I get to play. But what do you do with improv? And also, depending on the director, some will let the actors improv.
Yeah. This happens all the time on the comedies that I work on. Okay.
Oh.
And the way that I have to deal with it is track the improv with shorthand. Okay. So I also have worked on one of my favorite directors, honest to goodness. I love Tyler Perry so much. I've worked with him a bunch and I've done a bunch of the Medea movies, which of course are like, ridiculous, but they're so much fun because we get to laugh all day long. But he'll play multiple characters in the scene. So we'll do one day where he's in his prosthetics or, as Medea or something, and he'll just be sitting there making up foolishness. I mean, he'll just improv for 5 minutes and we're dying laughing, but I have to track in shorthand what he's saying, because when we turn around on, for example, Uncle Joe or another character that he's going to play, or just when we turn around on another actor, I have to give them every variety, every version of that improv so that they can say something back that cuts with it. So comedies, it gets to be very, very interesting for the script supervisor. So it's just a matter of taking more notes, so I'll, and I learned this from his editor, who happens to be in Atlanta right now, Maisie Hoyt. She said to me on my very first one, I was like, oh my gosh, they're going to improv the whole show. What do I do? She happened to be on set when, she flew in from LA to be with us for the first couple of days. And she was like, just give me shorthand, notes. Like, here's the pig joke, here's the, take 2 is the joke about, he tells the story about going to the bar at age 5 or whatever, his mom taking him to the bar or something like that. Take 3 is the joke about, whatever the case may be. So I'm tracking it in each take. And then when we turn around, I'm making sure I prompt those actors to respond to all that improv. So it's similar to helping an actor, get a line that's actually scripted. I'm just cueing them to react to something that's not in the script, but that I know is there because we shot it and it's in my notes.
Wow. And the
Yeah.
director would know that, but you're right next to the director, making sure that if he or she isn't saying it, that you're saying it.
I have to say, because he is the director. So it's kind of like I'm really putting on my director hat when when your director is actually in the scene as an actor.
Oh, yes, of
It's
course.
like you're really stepping up at that point,
You are the
and
director.
that's
Yeah.
fun. Yeah.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you so much for doing this, Leslie. And Jennifer, thank you so much for being here. You are such a dynamic person. I'm listening to you. It's kind of overwhelming. I think any production that gets to have you as their script supervisor, they're really lucky, because I can see how you do it all and you do it perfectly. I'm a SAG actor. I'm doing some screenplay writing, and I'm curious, like, who makes a good script supervisor? Are there certain personality traits, certain types of skills? I mean, I know you've talked a lot about that, but and then lastly, it sounds crazy stressful. I don't know. How do you manage the stress?
Okay, so actually, Leslie, do I have screen share capability? Because I actually have
Yes.
a slideshow. I'm not going to do the whole slideshow because we're like, but I'll just show you a couple of strengths, guys.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
Okay. So yeah, it's, can you guys see that frame there? It
Mhm.
says strengths. Eye for detail, the ability to stay energized and focused for long periods of time. You know, good manners, as in just getting, playing well with others, is what I should say there. Strong communication skills, because I truly have to prevent problems before they happen. So I have to, help my hair department, help my costume department, help my makeup department, see continuity the way I do. Remember, these guys are stretched so thin, and they might send an actor to set and say they're camera ready, when in fact I can immediately see 15 details that don't match. So I have to help them see it my way in the most graceful, team spirited kind of way, always in the spirit of teamwork, never confrontational, bossy. That does not work. You will get worse continuity, and that will reflect poorly on you. So always be respectful and kind with your department heads. So communicate well to achieve better continuity. Everybody wins that way. Composure under stress, because as you mentioned, it can be a little bit high pressure. I am as cool as a cucumber on set, no matter what's going on. I mean, my sister's like, you should be a crisis manager. And I was like, I learned that in TV. Okay. Like, it never helps to panic. It always helps, no matter what's going on, stay cool and think about what's the most important thing in front of me, and one step, in front of the other. Like, let's just fix whatever crisis is happening right now, and it's fine. So composure under stress is very important. Being organized in your work, that is to say, just with your notes and your matching photos and, your continuity breakdown and your script. I'm not an organized person in real life. Okay. I'm very much like a free spirit in my regular life, but in my job, like, my system actually really does that part for me. Because it's like foolproof, so my org is automatically organized. So I can find, I swear to you, I can find hundreds, if not thousands of details in a second, because it's just designed that way. The system is designed that way. So if I have a DP come up to me and say, Jennifer, was the street light outside the motel that we shot the exterior for on the North Shore 6 weeks ago, was that light blue or red? I have an answer. I just pull it up and have an answer. I get asked the craziest questions. Jennifer, when we shot the exterior where Judd and his little nephew show up at the front door, were their shadows long or were they short? Because we have to, we have to shoot an insert on the concrete right now. And should this dropped coin be in Judd's shadow, or should it be on clean, shadow-free concrete? Here's the answer. Okay. Like, literally, I have a system where I can call up any detail. So being organized in your work helps. Having a great attitude and being happy to be there. My favorite shows are the ones where we take a moment at the beginning of the day to have, like, not a prayer circle, like not prayer per se, but just a moment together where we express gratitude when you're exhausted. You're on day 6 of like a really intense show, and you slept 3 hours last night, and you're like, oh my God, how am I going to get through the day? Well, I look up at my colleagues and I go, she works her behind off. He works his behind off. These actors are working their behind off. I'm doing it for them today, so that's like, so having a great attitude and having an attitude of gratitude will make your day much better. And then of course, tact, because, as I said, we have to work with our colleagues and get them to see things our way without coming across as like punitive or bossy or confrontational. So, a lot of people have these skills, already, they're practicing these skills in their day jobs, at their desk jobs. There are a lot of translatable skills from non-script supervisor work that just translate beautifully to script supervising. So did that answer your question?
Definitely.
We can
Thank
see why
you.
you're such a good script supervisor. We ask one question and you've got 10 bullet points that you can that you're immediately know. You can see why she's so great, right?
It's fun.
Blowing.
Do we have other questions? I'm not seeing any more hands.
I
Hmm?
have a thought for Jennifer. I think she needs to have more energy. What do you think?
Yeah.
That is absolutely hilarious.
Art has raised his hand. Art, please.
Yeah, I have a quick question. when you had mentioned that, when you get a script, you kind of like look for potential road bumps or whatever that could be a potential problem.
Big time.
Have you ever run across, and I don't know if the script supervisor would maybe be someone to ask from an actor perspective, but like you get a script and there is dialogue, but then in parentheses above it, it says in Pawnee, like another language, like an indigenous language.
Oh.
But the dialogue, I mean, what's written, the lines are in English.
Yeah.
So then as an actor, if you don't get the translations, is the script supervisor somebody you can ask like, hey, do you know where these are? Or is it maybe somebody else or something like that?
Great question. The script supervisor absolutely has to coordinate with the producer and find out who's our translator to make sure we're doing this right. We had this situation happen on Watchmen. There was a Vietnamese character, okay, and we had a Vietnamese consultant on set, and he was hired by the producer. He was with us for like 2 days of shooting, and we learned, I don't know how we figured this out. I had nothing to do with it. They found out in post that the translations weren't right. Honest to goodness. So we had to let him go and bring in a new Vietnamese translator. I think it was that one of the actors spoke, oh my gosh, one of the actors spoke conversational Vietnamese. Like I think he was on Lost playing a Vietnamese character. This is so long ago. But someone on set who spoke a vague amount of Vietnamese was like, this doesn't make sense what he's telling this actor to say. Because the actor who was saying the lines spoke no Vietnamese. She was playing a Vietnamese character. She was a Vietnamese American, but didn't speak Vietnamese. So she's just receiving this from the Vietnamese language consultant, and an actor who had to speak Vietnamese on another show was like, So we had to let that person go and reshoot,
Wow.
So and this was, the producer dropped the ball on that by hiring someone who they, thought was qualified and wasn't. There were, other than having another person who spoke fluent Vietnamese, there would have been no way for us to check that. That would have been hugely embarrassing.
Yeah.
So definitely speak to the script supervisor. The script supervisor will be finding out from the producer, from the assistant director, from the director, what's the plan for all this, this bilingual scene. So we'll have a language, a consultant on set. I've also worked on a set where one of the actors was using American Sign Language for like 4 nights we shot. It was actually a deaf actor, and I had to work as closely with his interpreters as with him for matching and lines. They were like next to me, like literally next to me all night and stuff, because we were like constantly interacting about that. So it gets interesting, when there are multiple languages. We need someone who's keeping us honest.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Wow. I think everyone is overwhelmed. I think everyone is processing, like 45 minutes and almost an hour of information. I'm looking at everybody and everyone's like,
oh, sorry, guys.
How is there only one of you? Like, who decided there should only be one script supervisor? We don't have assistants in the US. In the UK, there are some assistant script supervisors. There are some people in the US who are pushing for that, but it's not really happening. They also don't really let shadows on set anymore, and that's more for liability reasons, especially since COVID. It used to be a wonderful thing. I could have someone join me on set and just shadow me all afternoon. A lot of times it was like a PA who got permission on the set I was already on. But I have all my trainees, they ask me that over and over, and I'm like, guys, it's gone. Like every time I fight for it, for them, I get a no because they don't want the added liability. So the best way to learn is to learn a system and then start practicing on set, like doing, low budgets and things like that, which is what I help my people do. Just go straight to work, starting where they are on the lower budget, lower stakes, shows where they're getting their mistakes out of the way without, ruining their reputations or hireability or something by, jumping onto Yellowstone season 5 and not really being ready. Practice, just step up your experience, show by show, and you'll get good fast. So
one last question. How did you develop your system, and what maybe you could tell us in, not too much detail, although she is the detail person. What's different about it? How did you come up with it?
It was basically, I had no choice. I decided to go work at my favorite studio to work because I love the people and like, you know, I won't name the studio just for, you know, because we sign NDAs and whatnot, but I do repeat work at a certain studio that I love because people are my favorite, you know, they're all positive, like everyone's happy to be there. You know, negativity on set can really be a drag. And I just find that this is just the most positive environment I've ever shot in. So I like working there.
Yeah.
But that being said, we just shoot an insane number of pages a day. It's impossibly fast. So I had no choice, you know, I had to just go like, what are, you know, how do I do this job? How do I block shoot 165 pages from 18 episodes a day? How do I do that? And I figured it out and I created a system. I'm not joking. Scripty had a lot to do with helping me work that fast, but still some of the shows that I do are strictly by hand. So old school, paper, pencil, camera in my pocket, taking pictures like with a point and shoot. And I still keep the pace up even with the handwritten. So it's a matter of knowing what matters and ignoring everything else. So when you boil it down, it really is a question of rinsing and repeating the steps with diligence daily. So I completely put everything out of my mind that doesn't matter and focus on what I know matters, and I get it done really, really fast.
Amazing. Hey, I'm sure there's some people here who would like to, you know, who would want to consider becoming script supervisors. So you're going to have some training. Do you want to give us an information about anything that you might have coming up?
Yeah, thank you. So I am doing a total like a pretty deep dive overview on Saturday. It'll probably run in the neighborhood of 2 to 2.5 hours. We're going to go deep on some prep work exercises together. We'll cover the daily steps, you know, soup to nuts. We'll talk about how to start. We'll talk about how to deal with, you know, with a number of issues. And we'll take questions and answer questions. And we'll actually do some case studies on people that I've trained to kind of demonstrate how quickly they went from having no knowledge of the job to getting co-director credits on their first feature film. I mean, like crazy, crazy transformations. So yeah, so I'm doing that Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern, and it's free.
That's
So
great. What if I'm teaching a class at that time, but from this talk, I'm so interested in, you know, in hearing you speak more. What happens if we can't be available at that time?
If you can't be available, go ahead and register, and that way I will automatically send the replay to you. If you know, if you don't, like if I just try to remember it based on this meeting, it could slip through the cracks. So if you just register, then I'll have your name and I'll automatically send it to you.
Excellent. Okay. Any last questions? We have a wonderful director here, Maggie. I don't know if Maggie, you wanted to ask anything, but last chance before we wrap for the day, for the week.
I have what's probably a stupid question, but is there any place for your type of work in live theater?
Oh, you know, there's a lot of overlap when it comes to the stage manager job. Stage managers, I actually have a lot of stage managers who come to me to train for film. You know, because you're tracking all the blocking, you know, you're sort of keeping the actors on point. You know, you're a manager type, you know, so when it comes to script supervising, you're a producer type, but you're doing a lot of that same work. So I would say in live theater, you might consider stage managing.
Excellent. All right. Well, gosh, what fun.
Yay. Thank y'all for having me, guys.
You are a force of nature, I think.
Wonderful questions. I really enjoyed it. Smart questions.
Such great questions. Really, really well considered questions. Jennifer, thank you so much for taking this time to be with us.
Thank you, guys. Y'all have a great night. I really enjoyed it. I hope to see you again. Y'all feel free to come Saturday or watch the replay after.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Leslie.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Good
Thank
night,
you.
everyone. See you later.
Thank you very much.